Hello everyone. Good morning and welcome to the live. We're going to be talking all about how to use astrology to empower your business. I also wrote some questions down from the threads. So we're going to dive into some of your questions, tips, and really owning your gifts, bringing your gifts into your business. So this is going to be really juicy. Hi, Jenn. Welcome.
Hi, Lindsay. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Fun.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
Okay. I was looking for my notebook where I wrote the questions down just to kind of get us ready.
That sounds great. I'm just doing some technology here to ensure that I can hear you clearly. Isn't it funny? This is so Aquarian and confusing. Okay. It's not even Mercury retrograde.
It's so funny. I don't know if you follow K-Pacha. Tom Lesher, he's an astrology person, but I was watching his astrology for this week, this morning, and even the video, I was like, oh my gosh, like even just like looking at it, it felt so like Aquarius energy. My mind was hurting a little bit.
I don't, you and I have chatted about this, is like, I love it. It just comes kind of naturally. And I think those of us that are astrologers have very mercurial or Aquarius charts. So it's all a lot ahead. Like just very heady stuff. And as you know, we know mythology with Mercury, he goes between the worlds. So it is. And then there are some people that even blow my mind. So, and my friends are like, I wouldn't be able to follow them. So.
So I want to just welcome you again for being here and for taking this opportunity to just chat with me and chat to all the ladies and in this space. I'd love for you just to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you and your work, and then we can kind of dive in.
I'd love to. So I'm Jenn Almond. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for allowing me to be here with all your wonderful women. So fully inspired. I'm so excited to be here. I'm an astrologer and energy healing coach. And what I do is I help women create lives and businesses that feel good. And usually most of these women are at some sort of crossroads seeking clarity. And that's where I come into play. And it's really funny because we were talking about how mercurial or how like just very Aquarian astrology can be. When you start to fold that into your life, there is it's its own language. We will all admit it's its own language. And so you kind of need a little bit, even though the guidance is there and it's your guidance and it's your stars of how it's been mapped out, which is really what it is, that you need a translator. And I honestly feel like some of the sacred sciences that were evolved from many moons ago were turned different ways because people needed that different type of translation. So astrology is just one way of translating sacred sciences.
Totally. And, one of the things that I loved about my session with you, and I told you this, is the way that you also bring things together to actually use it as a tool to empower you in your life and business. So, we can have the stars being aligned a certain way, and it might look like, if you're in a Saturn return, like you're going to get your ass kicked, right? But we can also use that if we know like what it is that we're needing to work towards. Then it's like, okay, so I need to own my power more, or I need to work on these boundaries. And then we can have like a direct channel or a direct focus to work that and then use it to actually support us, right? To move forward and to evolve in our business and our life.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head, really. It's practical magic, right? So sometimes I talk to my energy healers and the women that are trying, doing their business and stuff. They're like, I get lost in waves. And yet there's practical magic, back when. So there's something that needs to be clear is a lot of us initially started dabbling in what's Western astrology. And I started there, to be honest with you. And there's all sorts of systems. And traditional astrology takes that practical application of the divine guidance and it makes it practical, because back then, as above, so below was kind of the way that we used as a society to do our daily things, to let the ships come in, to raise the crops. Like those were the things to live. And so in my time being an astrologer, I've moved from that Western behavioral, which was Carl Jung, period, which was alive in the 70s, to more of the traditional. Now, neither is right or wrong, neither is better or worse. It's just which way are you turning that horoscope. So yeah, and I like the practical magic, because why do it if it's not going to help you do something?
Totally. Yes, I love it. So, yeah, tell us like a little bit about where do you even start? So, if you are at a crossroads, like for myself, a few months ago, like I felt like I was being hit by these waves of energy, right? And so like I would start to take a step forward in my business, and then it was like I get crashed on with a wave. So like where would someone start? Like how would they even know that like maybe they want to get an astrology reading, or maybe an astrology reading and some support would actually be able to empower them to move to the next level in their business or their relationship or their life? Like how would they know? Where would they start with this?
Yeah, great question. Like, how do I get started? Because for a while, people are like, I don't know why I'm coming to you. I just am, because I like this stuff. Well, that's great for me that you like this stuff, but then it doesn't help us kind of apply that knowledge and guidance to your life as you are feeling the pain or working through something. So it's a great question. And I think we had something similar that I'm going to kind of answer about relationships. So secret to the natal chart. If you're new, if you're not new, a lot of people get, kind of get messed up or confused with the houses and how they play out. Honestly, the houses are simply just areas of our life. So the reason I say this in this question is because when you're starting out and you're not sure, there's major axes. There's four. There's the ascendant, which a lot of us know about, which our soul came here to do. There's the nadir, which is like an inward reflection. There's the DC, descendant, which is our relationship line. And then there's the midheaven, which is career. Like I would say that some that dabble don't realize the importance of the correlation between this right angle, which is a tension, which is a square, that they may not see that. But that's where I'll start. I listen to where it is, like where is their frustration, where is it that they feel they're getting tripped up, but they're going really well in another way. And I look at the relationship of that axis. So thanks to you, after we talked earlier this week, I'd actually gone back to some of my questionnaires of my past clients. And it's really funny because people don't reach out to me until this happens. Now, most would say it's because of money. Well, honestly, if you're evolved and you're self-actualized and you've been doing this, you know that money isn't everything. Like you just know in the heart of hearts, that's not the real reason. And, but it comes up a lot. Obviously, it's sometimes the elephant in the room. And yet really for me, what I see is that they want freedom, or they want to be their true self and be seen and be heard. And those have been the two things that have popped up mostly, which I was actually really surprised. So thank you for that exercise. But it was something I was already doing, but it helped me bring it more into words. So you can deal with the money issues, right? Like people can find resources last minute, even late minute, in the nick of time. It's not until they're kind of shaken in not having their freedom or not feeling themselves. And then we go from there and see what's being activated. And it could be your business. It could be a relationship. It could be family dynamics. But that's when they start to come to me.
And what I think is fascinating is, you know, money is an energy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when we don't feel like ourselves and we don't feel in alignment, or we feel confined and like put in a box, you know, where we aren't feeling free, then it's more challenging to actually also bring in money.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We talked about it, that clutching. Why do I hold on to the last single second?
Sorry, I'm charging my phone. I should have left it plugged in, but I was kind of being hopeful.
Hopeful's good.
Okay. My Pisces dreaming, hopeful energy. I'm a
Hi,
dreamer.
Melissa. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, ladies, just so you know, I think I posted this that Lindsay's my yin to my yang, even though in Chinese astrology that she discovered that we're both metals, but she is earth and water, where I am fire and air. And so I have actually blessed you all with a meditation that she taught me to not be so exuberant in the sense that it's like overwhelming and scary. But it's funny. It's got to be funny. If it's not funny, then forget it. I don't want to do it.
Totally. Um, okay, so someone's at this crossroad, they're feeling you know, maybe restricted, or like they're disconnected from their self and they're needing something. So
Mm-hmm.
um so they can obviously get a reading. What are like some other ways that they can use astrology to empower themselves or empower their business at this point?
Yeah, that's super good question, right? If they're dabbling in it. So I want to debunk a myth. Um, for many years, when Western astrology was reintroduced in the 70s from a psychological psychotherapy kind of situation and characteristics, like why people were addicts and stuff like that. So I want to debunk a myth that astrology is gloom and doom. You mentioned getting your ass handed to you from Saturn. It's like, I get a lot of questions of like, oh my God, it's Mercury retrograde. I can't do anything. I can't sign anything. I'm like, oh my God, Jesus, people, like, Chicken Little, the sky's not gonna fall over centuries. Like, it's just not. And I say that now because it's an analogy that I used when I was and this is gonna sound funny, you guys. I was a systems engineer for the federal government, and I actually did satellites, and there was only one time that one fell out of the sky. Anyways, so I always had my head in the clouds. Um, but, but you know, it's like, so the question, you know, you and this is what happens when you have a lot of air circling around. But debunk a myth that it's not gloom and doom, right? So you need to realize that yes, you were charted, and I call it an astrological DNA because I actually started in health and wellness, and then I'm a health coach gone wild. You need to realize that yes, you were given this DNA. Now, whether you activate it or not activate it, that's why we have free will and choice. So when you come to an astrologer or you're reading something, let's say you're just reading something. So let's say you don't even want to, you're like, Jen, you're too much. Like, that's fine. If you're just reading something, what you want to do is just isolate one single picture and don't overwhelm yourself. Like, we opened this conversation about how there's so much and there's so many layers that can get you involved in astrology that you can get lost. So what I would say is just isolate that thing. So if you know that you're going through a Saturn cycle, what's the sign in? Is it in Cancer? Okay, great. So you need to nurture yourself a little more. Don't go any further than that. So your Saturn is in Capricorn. Okay, you need to lighten up. You need to kind of break those boundaries and that stoic way of being and thinking about that you should have to be doing something and take control of your life. Okay, don't blow it up. So that's like debunking the myth of the gloom and doom aspect of astrology. Because again, it was there to help us. The stars were created by the heavens and spirit, and anything like that isn't meant to scare the shit out of us. You know, yes, we should learn. Yes, we should be aware. Yes, we should not be mean to each other, everything through love to co-create change. So that's kind of the thing. Don't overwhelm yourself. take one piece of
Totally.
it.
I feel like for me, I've always been super sensitive. And I think when I first started to even explore astrology, like I was struggling with so many health issues, and I actually started to follow the moon because of that. So my stomach, like 2 months out of, 2 weeks out of the month, like was bloated and hurting and swollen and all of these things. So I started to chart it. And what I realized is like it was actually following the moon cycle. So when we'd have a full moon or whatever, like I would notice I was more inflamed, or I don't remember exactly which one was what for me
Mm-hmm.
during that time, but that was why I started to like follow it. And it like actually became so it became validating, and it was like a way for me to give myself grace. So also like, you've read my chart, so you know what my energy is. But like I would find myself, even when I started to grow my business, like there would be times when I literally was spinning. Like I felt so dizzy, and like I couldn't even find myself because I was like so just swimming in energy, right? And for me, like astrology was like this anchor. So um I mean, I didn't follow it religiously. Like I wouldn't look up my horoscope like what's going to happen to me today, and I have to like let's see if that happens. But if I was feeling like lost or something, like I might tune into a blog, or I might tune into an astrology video. And most of the time I was like, "Oh, that's why I'm feeling like this." And
Mm-hmm.
it was like once I would give myself the validation, like even since our reading, right? So you totally called me out, and you were like, girl, you need to own your power and unleash that. And so since then, I'm like so much more conscious of it, right? I'm like, oh, okay, this is how I'm playing small. This is how I'm playing small. Like, can I expand and create a little bit more space for myself? And so it's like giving myself so much grace and permission to like be where I am, but in that same like not being a victim to where I am, but being where I am and still expanding.
There's a couple really good things that you said in there, and I'll just touch on that place where being okay where I am and having the permission. When I was learning astrology, and like I was talking about, like your Cosmo is your Cosmo makeup, and it, you have free will, is it's permission for you to be you. Like I don't give you permissions. The star has already done that for you, or whatever has, whatever tool you may be using. And so when you said that, that was like, yes, that's exactly what astrology does. From just the natal part of it is, yeah, you're cool, dude. You like, I'm always like, I have a client that I see everything she goes through as an opportunity. Like I never say like, oh my God, that's horrible. Like that's your lesson. Like, I'm like, no, this is good. This is what, and I will tell her what I will say. No, 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 no. It's your fire. This is what, and I explain it to her how I see it in the chart. And so that's kind of how I work is I map it out. And then I say, okay, that I see that as an opportunity in your chart. Now, if we turn it this way, this is possible. And if we turn it this way, this is possible. It's just possibilities. It's up to you, the person who owns that mapping, to determine what your outcome is. So it is permission to be you.
I love that too because, again, going back to when I first started my business, I was a dietitian and I was doing holistic health coaching, and I always had this pull. That's kind of when I started dabbling in astrology. So, um, I mean, I'm still dabbling, but I started using it. And so I always felt this like feeling like, okay, I really want to go deep, and like, but then I was so scared to go deep, right? So I remember the first time, like, I think I did read my natal chart, like, I don't know, I got it from some site or whatever. And like, when I was reading about myself, I was like, oh my God, yes, like that is why I feel like this. And so, yeah, it's like sometimes we're like resisting what we actually know, and we're resisting who we are. So like going back to my recent thing with you, like this power thing, right? Or like this amount of energy that I have, and then I like resist it. So I'm like, oh, I don't know, let me downplay that, or it creates more of a disalignment in our business and our life. Like that's when we sort of get the hand slaps, or we'll attract the resistance. Yeah. Like you're mentioning, it's like every opportunity is an opportunity to learn. So we'll attract resistance to then, which is perfect with the Aquarian thing, right? Like, let's look at everything from the bigger picture. We're attracting resistance to push us into what we actually need to be, like ourselves.
You got it. You totally got it. You so got it. And I do want to clarify your power and everything like that, because it's y'all, that it's not just power, it's knowing, just so you know. I just so you know, she's not joking when she posted like that. I'm like, I don't know you from Adam, but if you told me to move over 6 inches because I'm going to get struck by lightning, I'm going to move over 15 feet. Like, I don't even know who you are. But I did want to talk about the moon.
We just met like last week. We don't even know each other.
We did. We did. I did want to talk about the moon because I think that's what we have in common too. Because I was a holistic health coach, personal trainer, all of that until I got into my yoga certification and discovered the chakra system and all of that. So I was like, ooh, energy? What is this? So I want to talk about the moon because I think there was a question in here, or maybe it was somewhere else where I'm a resident astrologer in another group and I'm over here. So like, I just go and give you, I like to give just guidance, just general collective guidance. And then if you want to go deeper, then there's always opportunities. But so I want to talk about the moon. I think there was a question about why am I edgy right now? And I know there was questions about eclipses. So yes, I think many of us who are soulfully aligned or getting soulfully aligned or practice that kind of alignment use the moon. Well, it makes sense. You know, she's us. We're feminine. We're feminine flow. That's what the moon represents. It represents our emotions. Now, here's just a little extra tidbit for you guys. Look for where there's a void of the moon. So what the void of the moon is when the moon's going through her cycle, as she's spinning around the earth. Side note, astrology and astronomy were always together. Retards decided to separate it. So that's why it's a science. So anyways, so as she's going around the earth and orbiting, the void of the moon, what happens is the moon's made all her aspects in that sign that she's in, okay? So she's made all of her aspects to all the planets in the sign that she's currently in, and she's waiting to go into the next sign. So right now, she's, I think she's in Taurus, about to go into Gemini. So she's tired and she's cranky and there's nothing to support her. So I think, I don't know if it was in this group or another, but if you
you just read me how I was feeling last night.
It's literally been a void of a moon. Like, so it's been a void of a moon for a really long time. I'm getting like full body chills. She's very excited that I'm explaining this to you guys. It's been a void of a moon. Like sometimes it's just a day or two. She's been void because we had so much energy in Capricorn. She's been void for almost 5 days. She's pissy.
Oh, wow.
She turns tomorrow. So she's good tomorrow. She goes into Gemini. But yeah, so yes, there's 8 cycles to the moon. We look at 4, waxing, waning, new, and full, not in that order. But also you can see on anything when there's a void. And to be honest, in 2018, there's several voids of the moon. So it's very interesting that we're being asked to be a little bit more in our bodies and dealing with that, however it shows up. For me, I've been eating a lot, like really badly. Like not badly, but like, I'm like, this has got to stop, going out to eat. Sometimes it shows up as cleaning, like grounding in earth. But I think because it was in Taurus for me, it was about comfort and luscious food. You just have to pay attention.
And so what I was feeling is like this void of like you were saying, like where I felt like I'm not getting nourished. So I just finished the launch. So then I was like, oh my God, I just did all of this stuff and like I want to receive and I want to be pampered. And last night when me and James were laying down, like I told him, I was like, I don't even want you to touch me. Like I feel so depleted. I was throwing my temper tantrum. But, I used to think I was crazy. Like, seriously, I'm a Scorpio. I have a Pisces moon. I have all this water. And I used to legit think I was crazy. I was like, what is wrong with me? My emotions, And especially when I didn't know how to feel my emotions or process them. That's whenever my stomach I would feel pregnant and people would ask me, are you pregnant? And it was a mess, right? But it was just the moon, guiding me to feel my emotions and to be connected.
It is. And it's so the moon, we use it as an, I don't want to say excuse, but we're like, the guys are always like, oh my God, you're on that cycle again. I'll look at my husband and go, are you on your cycle again? He's a rising Libra, so he's a little bit of a girl, but it affects them too, just like it affects us.
Totally. So I just want to tell Lynette, if she's still watching, you will love Jen. She's wonderful.
Oh, I see it. Oh, I would love to work with you. I'm so glad. I love giving information. I have a very mercurial chart. The other part of the moon. We want to talk about the eclipses. Yeah, we do. We're going to talk about the eclipses. There was a real good question in there that somebody asked about how, first, we're in eclipse season right now. We're in the shadow part of it, which just means that we're kind of ramping up to it. Then we have the blue moon on the 31st, which is full moon in Leo. And then there's another eclipse on the 15th of February. Yeah, I think and then we go out of the shadow again. Now, I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to answer two questions. What are eclipses and what does it mean? And then how does this eclipse season relate to last year's August crazy US eclipse season? All right. I loved August until we got out of that and got into the shadow. And I'm just like, holy fuck, what? And my girlfriend and I are on the phone. She's like, what did you do? I was like, I didn't do it. So, first thing, what is an eclipse season? Why do we care? Why? Like, what is it? So, when we look at the eclipse season and it approaches, whether it's a total eclipse or it's either a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse. Solar being, if it's a solar eclipse, has to do with the ego. If it's a lunar eclipse, has to do with the feminine and the emotionals and the underworld. Okay, just light and dark kind of thing. So when we come to eclipse season, we're looking at things either from the previous eclipse season. If you're a real eclipse junkie, you can go back and see where years ago tied to this. But for ease, I'm just going to say how it is, because there's signs that go into it. There's aspects, blah, blah, blah. For ease, I'm just going to say when we're in eclipse season, we're looking at what happened from the last eclipse season. And we're looking at it from a lens of what's really burning down. What are we really surrendering to? Because from that last eclipse season, we use that energy to say, no more. Like, I'm stepping into this. I'm changing this. We may or may not have seen things change at that point in time, like immediately, because that eclipse season that shadow part of the eclipse season is 6 to 8 months. Then when we get into the next eclipse season that comes forward, that's when the bridges to what was happening to where we want to be start to burn down. So what's happening right now, if you notice, the first eclipse that occurs is a total eclipse in Leo and full moon. Well, the total lunar eclipse in Leo with the full moon. The solar eclipse was in Leo that crossed the United States. So that's why we're looking at that. So when I see this and when I listen to other astrologers, because I do listen to other astrologers, I study with other teachers. The way I kind of take it for myself and for my clients is I look at, what intentions did I have? What was I really wanting to cultivate, step into, and claim? And then now when it's showing up, how am I seeing whatever the experience is, burning those bridges to show me I got you? Like, yep, like there's no going back. So I'll give you for example. So I'm a rising Leo, which Lindsay totally called out when we were talking last. Michelle, the last eclipse season was in August to September of 2017. Good question. So I had actually claimed like being able to be seen, being able to be heard, and doing it in, I don't even care at that point in time, I wasn't naming a platform. When Lindsay said, hey, I want you to come on, and this isn't the only guest experience that I'm doing. Like I said, I'm a resident astrologer in another group, and I'm going to be on stage. So I'm seeing that there's no excuse for me to not be seen, because everything is unfolding. And now I'm being faced with other things to prepare for, like prepare for questions from you guys, prepare my energy so that it doesn't fire hose all of you and make you go crazy and your head spin. So those are the things that I'm showing you, or that I'm seeing right now in this eclipse season, saying, you wanted this back then. You went through the shadow period. I prepped you for that. All the planets that helped prep me for that. And now I'm going to show you how this is real. And we're burning all the bridges for any excuses or any bullshit now. Does that make sense?
Totally. I did a live this morning, and I was talking about how it really feels like we are shedding. Like it's like the structure that we had, like we can't fit into it anymore. It's like a snake, needing to shed, or like a hermit crab. It's like it gets too big. It has to like let go of its shell and create a new shell. And it feels like that's what we're in. I know for me, the last eclipse season was a huge heart activation. And fascinating, because lineage stuff was working for me too. My grandpa had heart surgery, and I ended up, like, the next day I had poison ivy, which has been a thing the past, I don't know, not even a year, but I've never had it in my life. And 2017 I got it 3 times. I don't know, but anyway, I got sick for like 2 weeks, and then just so much heart healing, grief and grief and grief and grief and grief around my gifts and all of my shadow pieces, and all the ways that I haven't loved myself or allowed myself to be fully myself. And it was pretty intense. So even just, again, like coming back to my reading with you, it is like you're saying, it's like, okay, so now I'm ready to like own a little bit more and start to like build that bridge of, okay, so to own my gifts even on this deeper level, and to do this, then this is what needs to happen now.
Yep, absolutely. And Leo is about the heart, right? If you think about Wizard of Oz, the Cowardly Lion wanted a heart.
Being confident, right? Being confident in ourselves and our gifts. Leo.
Being seen.
And of course, my cat's name is Leo, right? And he came back home.
That's why I giggled when I met Leo too. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. Yeah, exactly. And so that's what I would ask you guys, whether you set intention or whether you were doing whatever you were doing back in August of last year when the total eclipse happened. You don't panic. You can figure this out. Like, where's Leo in your chart? Just figure it out, Obviously, you can always come check with me and we can go deeper. But, and it just explains, like, I'm a rising Leo. It's an alignment, just like how your experience was in your alignment. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. Nobody gets me. I'm crazy. I have North Node in Scorpio, which is another reason probably why I love you so much.
Totally. So a couple other questions that came up in the group. So I was kind of feeling like some of this is also like could be around what you're saying, like whatever the eclipse is working for individuals. But so one person was asking about really bringing their gifts more into, or bringing like their intuition and who they are more into their business. So I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, but is there anything you want to say around that?
Is this bringing our woo into our business? Is this that around that
Yeah.
topic? Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I love that, bringing our.
And we have a Leo.
What was that?
We have a Leo.
Oh, hi, baby. Yeah, it's about 11:30. Mine are going to be prancing in here soon too. Whatever. I forgot to shut the door. They're so sneaky. They're so smart. So yes, I used to not like that word woo. I always thought it was derogatory to. Let's bring some magic into our business. So more about that. So what I would say about that is there's a couple things, and this is where confidence comes into play, which is, again, we've talked about Leo energy or fire. I would even just say fire, because I think there was a comment about I'm a Sag and I have a lot of fire also in your group. So I'm going to take it from the 4 elements, just depending on where you're at, because it does depend on how you're cosmically made up of folding your gifts into your business. And I'll say, if you told me what was at the top of your chart on your midheaven, then I'll go with you. But let's go simple and we'll say the elements. So if it's fire, it's a very spirited, different than water. Water, I feel, is very soulful. Spirited, where it's fun and playful. So if you're trying to map everything out of the gifts that you have and strategize it, and you have a fire sign at the top of your chart, you're going to be really burned out. And so I would say it's got to be in a playful way, and it's got to be fun, and it's more than likely going to need to be spontaneous. And that's for fire signs just in general. And you may need to be being creative in another way, drawing, painting, whatever. Air. I have air at the top of the chart. It requires teaching, communication, speaking, bringing that in. And so here's the thing. I didn't want to do it. I'm a rising Leo. That we're talking about that axis again. I was a rising Leo, which is a fire sign, to at the top of my chart, the midheaven is air. They should inflame each other, but it's a square, so it creates tension. Not the case. It's getting there, like you. I'm getting there. So that's where air would come into play in folding your magic. Use that power of how you're supposed to. I say the 10th house tells us how to operate, how we operate, because it's a Capricorn energy. It's an earth energy. Water is all about feelings. Like Lindsay can tell you all about this. She's the epitome of it, and she shows it to you consistently. Even if she's like, no, I don't want to. She's consistently showing you this. It doesn't have words. Definitely doesn't have words. It takes a gift to be able to convey those words, but it is about all of the senses. It is about all of the senses and employing them. So are you doing that? Are you doing that for yourself in your business? Are you doing that for your clients? And the last is earth. And I don't want to call it practical magic, because I think all of it coming together is practical magic when you're folding in your gifts. But let's say you did have an earth symbol at the midheaven, which it's Capricorn anyway, so you've got like a double earth in that house. My sense is that you just have to make sure you have structure and organization, but not too much that you're inflexible. And then from there, because it's going to be it's going to feel heavy, but you're going to manifest a shit ton because it's just an earth sign. I would say you probably want to employ some other aspects in your chart, and we would look at that. But in a nutshell, you just take it at an elemental level of what's at the top of your chart to fill into how to fold your gifts into your business, how you operate.
It's so funny, like going back to just the permission that astrology gives. So even just listening to you go through this, like I remember in my business, I think I am earth and water. So some structure is good for me. But like if I try to plan out a launch, I totally like it doesn't feel good to me. It feels restricted, it feels forced, and then like I don't get good results. But when I really let myself embrace my water, right? So I have a little bit of structure, like I know the date, I know, you know, very open structure. Um, like I can manifest like a machine, right? And I think again, it does go to um, when we can embrace our gifts. And I remember my coach, I mean, bless her, she has a lot of earth, but she is intuitive. And she told me one time, she was like, Lindsay, because I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to feel my stuff. She's like, you always feel your stuff. She was like, your magic is manifesting. Like, just let yourself go manifest clients. She's like, that is your strategy. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, so if I just give myself permission to be myself again, right? Like, I can create massive results in my business. And so just a confirmation back to like knowing this stuff and really giving yourself permission to just lean into your own nature
Mm-hmm.
and who you are, like that really is the key to getting the results. And then, I think even after our session, you had told me you were like, you could, fire might be a challenge for me over the next however many months. She was like, so be more mindful of that. I started taking fire enhancing herbs. I was like, oh, I can eat ginger. Like I started remembering all these things. I can use my fire dragon, right? My guide that can help me with fire. And so what I loved about my conversation with you too, like my reading is like, then I was empowered to like, oh, just because I'm earth and water and maybe my fire is not as high, right? That playfulness or that like spontaneity, but I can bring that in and still like
Be
be mindful of it and intentional about it.
totally and be fully you. So that's what to me empowered is fully you. You haven't given anything away to somebody else to make the decision for you, right? You're coming from a centered place to take action or to do or be. So that's you're exactly spot on about it. And there was something that you had said too that I wanted to touch on about this year in general, especially for your crowd, because my sense is you probably tracked some good water babies for sure. I call you guys my water babies, and I usually work with fire water babies, but that I do. My water babies are amazing because they're so squishy and they're so lovey. And my fire water babies are that way too. But then they're erratic because they don't know whether to turn on the flame or
I
it's a
usually I
mess.
think water or I do pretty well with earth people too because then I can help them tap into their emotions
Yes,
and bring more of the feeling so that they can connect better with their tribe and that kind of
they
stuff.
kind of soften that hardness and the solidness
Yes,
and becomes a little bit more fertile. Yeah.
totally.
But about
I love that.
2018,
I love how you just said that. It's the fertileness. That is so true.
you do. Guys, her axis is water, earth, water, earth. Like water, just saying, I've been
We're
doing this for a
growing some
while.
flowers.
Growing flowers, you just recreated the whole like redwood forest. Are you kidding me? Good night, sister. Um,
So funny. And you're like creating new constellations.
I am. I make up words all the fucking time. My husband's like, "What the hell does that mean?" I don't know. Sounded good. Um, he's like, "You're a
Funny.
special girl." I get that a lot. Know that. But about 2018, you had said that there's just not a lot of fire, and that's actually true. Like at the beginning of the new year, there was no air. That's why it felt really dense and heavy. We see that again, I think around May. And then even in the summer, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, even in the summer, like June and July, there's no fire. That's so bizarre, just so you know. I mean, you're going to be calling on if you have, I'll get to that, Melissa. Give me 1 second. You're going to be calling on to your own fire, or like what Lindsay was saying was, oh, I know how to invoke fire. I'll take my fire herbs. I'll use my spirit guide, who's a dragon, who breathes fire. You're gonna have to call on those resources, either internally, if that's the cosmic way. Like for me, I felt great because I have a grand trine in air at that time of year. I didn't lose any kind of thought. When if there's too much air or fire, I can turn into a chaos. So that's what you kind of want to notice this year, is a lot of water and earth, and not just signs, but grand trines in earth and water, which is a really, really strong ease between all three of the signs in water or earth. Limited amount of air. I mean, we have air right now because the sun signs in Aquarius, so there was reprieve. I was so grateful when that happened last week. I was done with being in the depths of solitude. And fire is minimal. We had so much fire, and we saw that so much fire in the fires in California, in a lot of ways that just kind of spontaneously combusted or took off in the mountains. So we saw a lot of fire. Plus our total eclipse was in Leo, a fire sign, in August. So we've been doused with a lot of fire. So now we're being asked to kind of like, and I think you touched on this, Lindsay, is there's a rebuilding. Well, what do you rebuild with? Earth and water. Duh. So it means that we're going to be asked to be really present and feel and deal with that. And many of us who work in energetics, do soul alignment, do these various things, this is a big stage for us. This is a big opportunity for us. And because as a collective, there's going to be a lot of people not feeling well. Like they're just not going to feel well in whatever way that shows up for them. So if you've been doing this work, it's really, I would tell you it's your time to shine, and I would encourage you in whatever form that is. And that's basically, kind of what I relayed to Lindsay too. And we can always look at how that specifically shows up for you in that relationship if you and I are chatting. So Lindsay, there's a question here. So let me read Melissa's question real quick. I missed it, but how can we use our air sun or even air moon in our biz? I heard water and earth. So water and earth, and I was actually talking about the 10th house, and it wasn't specific to planets. But I'm going to answer your question because you're talking about the planet, the sun, or the planet, the moon. So here's the thing about the planet. It depends on what house you're in and how to use that in the business. So Melissa, if you're still online, can you kind of tell me do you know where your sun is or your moon is as far as what house or what sign? That would be my next question.
He is a Libra, and I want to say, she might have a moon in Scorpio and a rising in Sag, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. That's an interesting dynamic. I actually have a girlfriend who has a stellium, which is 3 or more planets in Libra, but she shows up as a Scorpio. It's really interesting, and it's been kind of a struggle for her to balance them.
I think she shows up as a...
One sec. Well, let me answer sun and moon in business in general, like whether the signs are there or not. So let's go there. Excuse me. So sun is how we, moon in Aquarius. Whoop, whoop. So let me answer for everybody else without specific signs. And Melissa, I'll utilize this. Tell me what houses each of those are in too. That'd be great if you know. So sun in general in our business. You want to look at where is your sun in the house? What house is it in? The sign helps, the house helps. The sun is how we show up. I hate to use the word ego because a lot of times ego is negatively perceived, but it's just your first facade. Like for me, my sun signs in Aquarius in the 6th house. So I do health and service a little weird. So it's in the 6th house. It's how I show up to serve my clients. It's a little eccentric. Moon. So I would use the moon, your moon sign in your chart, and relate it to the moon that's actually transiting. That's how I would use it in the business. So this is two different applications for 2 different planets. So wherever your moon is, I would look at what is the transiting moon, what phase is the transiting moon in, how is it relating to your natal moon as to where it's at right now. So for instance, lots of us know new moon and full moon. I'm just going to keep it super easy. So, and I'll use you, Melissa, as an example. So she has Libra moon, and the last moon we had and new moon was in Capricorn. So Libra moon, new moon in Capricorn. The way I would use that energy in the business is look at it from this point. New moon's about setting new intentions and new projects. Specifically, Capricorn's really good for that because it's an earth sign, right? Your Libra moon, wherever it is in the house, which is very helpful to know, wherever your Libra moon is, it is the fact that you're going to be looking at how to balance these intentions and these projects that you want to set forth in your business for the next lunar cycle. So the phases, as it travels, as the moon travels in the transit in the sky, we look at it at a lunar phase of the 28 to 30 days. So for the new moon cycle in Capricorn, using your Libra moon, how can you balance the projects with what you need to function or what your clients need? Because your your moon is in Libra. Okay, so she made an example. She made a mistake. Anyways, that's your example. You can go back and look at it. It makes sense. And then Melissa. Well, actually, let me pause. Lindsay, did that make sense? So it's 2 different applications of sun and moon.
Yeah, so you'd want to look at where it is, and then that's, according to that, would be how you would use it.
Perfect.
To nourish yourself and your clients, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Sun's simple. You just kind of want to look at how are you showing up, what house it is in. It's kind of how you're seen because it's an ego perspective. Moon has more depth to it. Go figure. She's so deep and so fluid. Okay, so Melissa, let's answer your question. Dang, typo. Libra sun, moon in Aquarius, sun in 10th house. Ooh, good. Moon in 2nd house. Nice. Okay. So for you're all about work. Sun in the 10th house. Wherever the sun is, whatever house the sun falls in is the most important house of the natal chart. That's a quote from my teacher, Deborah Silverman. So 10th house, you're all about work. And your sun is in Libra. So here we go. The example that I just gave you about whatever you're trying to create, however you're trying to operate your business, you've got to ensure that you are balanced. And I mean balanced in not like just you, but balanced with your time that you're giving to other, balanced with what you're receiving, is the project what you really want to be getting out of it. So 10th house is how we operate our business because your sun is there. Girl, you are a workaholic, so be cautious. My guess is that there needs to probably be some balance in that. So that's what I would say. So you could actually use that moon description that I gave for you, apply the same theory with that balance with the sun in the 10th house. All right. So moon in 2nd house. This is good. So 2nd house is, from a business perspective, is what is the value of our business to ourselves, to others, to the community, to the world. It is not necessarily monetary. Good, I'm glad I could hit it on the head for you. Sometimes we just need to hear it twice. So the 2nd house is about intrinsic value. It isn't always about money, but it does have values and possessions in it. Aquarius moon in the 2nd house. Air signs are going to be really good for you when you're planning and you're thinking about things, right? So Aquarius moon just shows up very eccentric, just like the sun does. It just shows up very different, very forward leaning, sometimes misunderstood. And again, it's very interesting that you have both in the 10th house and in the second house, an earth, moon, earth, air combination. Not a big deal, but here's what happens. If we're not really balancing our air when we're producing or manifesting, what happens to a rock up on a ledge that's getting pounded by air consistently? It erodes, right? It's slow. It's a slower erosion than burning down or melting or anything like that. It's a slower erosion, but it can also get pretty coarse and dry. So you want to make sure that you're not whittling away at things that aren't necessary, like not concerning yourself with things that aren't really for the greater purpose that you want, and that you want for your business, and that you want for the community, and that you want for the world. So just be cautious with that. Now with your moon, the tactic that I use with look at the phase of the moon, your strong points of the second house of increasing intrinsic value, because your moon's in the second house, depends on what the moon cycle's doing. So if the moon's in a fire or air, there's a compatibility for you. If the moon is in earth, I'd just say be really cautious not to overdo it. And if the moon is in a water phase or a water sign, that's going to be your time to rest and be easeful. Does that help? So there's lots of layers to this. And like, it was great because she talks about like her sun in the 10th house, and she talks about the second house. And that couldn't be more auspicious, because timing is always perfect. It's how we employ it is our own issue. That's what I concentrate on with my business. And that's what I concentrate on for my business owners when I turn their chart into a business chart. And actually, I'm just going to put a little FYI in here. I get headaches on it. Yeah, that's a lot of air. I get migraines too, a grand trine in air. That's what happens with air. When it gets too much, or anxiety, or just heightened kind of overwhelm, then you need to come back and balance that. You need to ground. You need to use the earth that's naturally in those two houses to like ask yourself, what's real? What's my real true focus? Make a list. That you need to really totally ground. So I'm glad that helped.
Also, would it be like so if it's a project, because I know air people can think of like 50 different ideas of what they want to work on. So like for her, maybe going back to like really which one's going to nourish her the most and feed, like where's that balance going to be of like, is she going to be able to get the return and the nourishment that she needs from the project? Like that would help to add some grounding, right?
Absolutely. Totally. Absolutely. Because she has a lot of air pulling on two major, just from a business perspective in the two houses. She's got two big planets, two major personal planets, both in air signs, sitting in earth houses. So absolutely. We can get whisked away very quickly. Yep. So here's something that I just learned, because I have, like I said, I have a grand trine in air, and I like to, I spin myself up a lot of times. So I just received this yesterday, is a question to ask yourself, which I liked what Lindsay was saying about nourishing. And I'm going to go like a little bit level deeper with a question is, what's your number one focus for your business? Now we're only looking at it from a business perspective. So what's your number one focus for your business? And with all those ideas, which of those ideas is going to nourish that feeling that you want the quickest? Because you'll get bored. You're so welcome. Mm-hmm. Yep. So it was a live reading. Fabulous. Right on the spot.
Yes, and I know we talked about doing that, so I love that it just naturally happened.
That's your like your little like your manifesting craze, like a little bit of a structure, which I'm like, yeah, it's totally bendable, and it just happens. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it, right? So it didn't need a plan. Like, it was already there.
I know. And you know, it's really funny. So my Mercury is in Capricorn. I have 2 planets in Capricorn, which are getting activated. At the beginning of this, I was like, should I say anything? I'm like, nope, just go with it. Breathe, come back.
I
So
could
it's
feel
awesome.
that. I'm like, he might want a little bit more structure. We'll just see what happens.
Dude, are you proud of me? It was like, I'm just going to be okay.
Damn. So,
Wow.
um, so any last things that you feel guided to share before we kind of wrap this up?
Hmm. Share. I want to highlight the fact, and I talked about this in 2018, being a lot of grand trines of water and all grand trines of water and earth, is make sure you're having fun. You know, whatever fun means to you. If you have to put it on your calendar to have fun or to relax, do it. Do whatever you need to, because you guys, with the gifts that you have and the businesses that you want to grow and do, we need to do that. We need to do all of the elements and employ them however they show up for you. And when we're rebuilding, however that shows up, when we're rebuilding and restructuring, we can enjoy it. You know, it can be fun for us, and yet we need to be able to walk away and have meaningless fun, like nourishing fun. I think nourishing would be a great word that Lindsay would employ too, is nourishing fun, so that there's no attachment to that fun. It's just pure fun, so that you can continue to do the intense rebuilding that's going to be asked of us, and however that shows up. So
I've so been feeling that. So I'm so glad you said that because I think there's a way as entrepreneurs we can say like, okay, I'm going to go do this so that I can feel nourished and inspired so that I can then get an idea in my business or, you know, XYZ. And it's like what I've been noticing is that like is not working.
mm-hmm.
Zero. So it really does feel like, you know, what I've been feeling the past week or so is like, actually, it's like there needs to be a boundary of like, I'm just going to go do this for myself. And I don't even want it to be connected to anything else, but just for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And this has
So
just
good.
been so fun, so much fun.
And so tell us if people are interested in getting in touch with you or knowing about more about what you offer. Do you want to just give us a little blurb about that? Like, how can they connect with you? What is it that you are currently offering?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can definitely find more about me on my website, jennbradshaw.com. It's Jen with 2 N's. It's not up to date, so don't freak out, but you can still get a hold of me there. I'm here in the group, Facebook. If you've got a question and want to connect, you can always tag me. Lindsay's been great about tagging questions. And I would say if any of you, I think there were some comments about like wanting to work with me or check it out, let's just hop on a call. And I do 15-minute astrological energy reads. And from there, because we've already kind of seen how many layers or which way we could go, I'll work with you to see where's the fit and what is best for you in that regard. So, Lindsay, I can shoot you that, or I can go into the, after we conclude here, I'll just put the little link at the end of this Facebook Live, if that's cool with you, to do the 15-minute astrological energy read. And we'll just go from
Definitely. I
there.
can post it and then I'll put it in the top part.
Okay, sounds perfect. Sounds perfect. Thank you, Lindsay.
Yay! So good. And I wasn't going to say this, but I'm just feeling the nudge to say it. So I'm going to be offering some readings with her as bonus to my 6-month program. So just letting y'all know.
Get in the program. She's so, dude, if you want to manifest, rub up against the people who have, here's another thing. I'm going to say it right now. So I was really afraid of, I was afraid of Scorpio. When I learned that my North Node was in Scorpio, I was like, fuck, no offense. all my dearest friends are Scorpios, and they're beautiful. Like, I love them. And they show me how to just drop into that, right? So they show me that's the reflection that I have. And it's really funny because I was like, I don't want to be a Scorpio. They have issues. That's the whole air and fire talking about not wanting to be deep. But here's the thing. If you ever don't know what it feels like to be like a certain sign or a certain element, rub up against or spend time with those people. And so that's why it's so good. I would say, yeah, if she's got some spaces, you want to manifest, she's your girl. I ain't lying.
Awesome. So good. So yeah, and I'm sure we'll do this again because I felt like this was so juicy. So
Yeah.
let us know if you like it. If you're watching the replay, drop us some comments below. If you love it, we will do it again.
Yeah, I would love to come back and talk about some other aspect of astrology. There's so much. And you might want me to because I'm going to the United Astrologers Conference. And oh my God, we're going to totally geek out there. I was looking at the
Oh,
registration. So new stuff.
so good. Yay. All right, my dear. Well, I love you. Keep playing, and we'll talk soon.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.